I think it's pretty rare to find a track that is so grueling that you don't want to go back. This is an 80-kilometre north-south desert run in the remote part of northwestern Victoria. Welcome to Border Track. Last time we were with you, we tackled Big Desert and just begun heading west towards this iconic track. In today's episode, we learn how it got its legendary status, from its unknown history to its grueling track conditions. This is our first and possibly our last time on Border Track, but we will say this is a track you must do at least once. Sit back and let's explore Border Track.
Alright, so I've made it to Border Track finally after 4 or 5 hours of driving over lumpy terrain. It was quite a long drive, but anyway, we're here and it's called Border Track obviously because it is the border of South Australia and Victoria. So basically follows all the way down.
Yeah, pretty much aim now. We're both knackered, so we're just gonna look for a camp.
Oh, we're exhausted.
And then we just wanted to get to Border Track and then we'll do pretty much the majority of it tomorrow.
Exactly right, we're just gonna find a camp. We'll keep going, do the rest of it tomorrow. But yeah, let's get on to Border Track. Alright, so before we start the video, Aussie Arvos merch is back.
So as you know, we've got our good old hoodie. We've also got t-shirts in 3 different colors. We've got the navy, the black, and the olive. And so it's all there, ready to go.
It's ready to be shipped right now, guys. So as soon as you place your order, we'll ship it. We've got pretty much every size covered, hopefully. So hopefully we've got enough for everyone. But head over to aussiearvos.com.au, put your order in, help support the channel, and yeah, you get some awesome merch out of it. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the video.
With the daylight slowly fading, we decided we needed to find a campsite for the night. We pulled into the Pines Campground, which is one of the first ones you'll come across on Border Track. Keep in mind that because you are in South Australia, you will have to pay for these campsites. They're nothing too flash, but you know, they're sort of flat, they do the job, and they've got a fire pit, so they're all right.
All right, well here we are at the Pines Campground on Border Track. This is like one of the first ones that you can stop in if you come, well, you can only come down one way from north. So yeah, this is the first one you'll see. It's like 2Ks from the start of the track. Now we'll have a fire tonight and chill out and watch the sunset. All right, so tonight's dinner, steak and fries and veggies. We got the steamer here. We're gonna be steaming them over the fire. They're just frozen veggies we bought, super easy. We've got some frozen chips too. We were gonna make these in the Travel Buddy, but it was taking way too long. We had them in there for an hour and really they weren't. There must have been too many of them because they weren't cooking well. So what we're gonna do, bit of veggie oil, we're gonna sort of shallow fry them over the fire in the camp oven. We've also got some steaks in the fridge that'll go on later. And yeah, it should be a grouse dinner, so let's get into it.
These are porterhouse steaks. People probably think we're eating like kings.
We are eating like kings, mate. Look at this.
When you go camping, everything goes back to basics. All you really need to think about is what you're gonna eat next. And on a cold night like tonight, a warm cooked meal that actually rivals some pub meals is a recipe for success.
What do you reckon?
They're hot.
They're good.
Tastes exactly like fish and chip shop chips.
Alright, show us a plate, Liam. Show us what you've made.
Steak, chips, veg. Pretty easy, but let's hope it tastes good. Very good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm honestly super impressed with those chips.
Oil makes everything better.
Well, clearly these chips are the best chips I've ever eaten, I reckon.
The next morning, we arose to a blanket of fog. We had a big day of driving ahead of us, so we decided to have a bit of a health kick and steer away from the eggs and bacon sambos that we had been previously living on. We then got camp packed up and got ready to start on Border Track.
Not too bad.
With the cars warmed up and the sand flag on, we were ready to start.
So here we are, back on Border Track. The plan is to basically complete the entire border track today. So we're going to just follow it along, see what different things you can see and find and tracks you can do, and yeah, get to the other side. So let's get into it.
Border track follows the fence line marking the boundary between Victoria and South Australia. The section of track we are doing is 80 kilometres long and can be travelled in the north to south direction. Now, border track might not seem to be that exciting, but it's actually got a lot of history to it. It was part of a huge border dispute between South Australia and Victoria. If you look at the Victorian border, you'll see it actually doesn't line up with the New South Wales border. It's in fact 3 kilometres out to the west. Now, this was because back in 1847, when they first surveyed the border, it was meant to run at exactly 141 degrees longitude, and well, they were off, ever so slightly. But to be fair on them, they were very harsh conditions, and this was actually the first ever surveyed border in Australia. Anyway, in the 1860s, South Australia discovered this mistake, and they were not happy. They planned a quote-unquote invasion, planning to send surveyors in to divide the land. Victoria said, no way. They'll be treated as trespassers and arrested, and this went back and forth for a long time. South Australia wanted compensation, Victoria didn't want to know about it, and anyway, in the end, it ended up going to the High Court of Australia, where they decided the border should stay where it is, and that the old surveyors did what they could with the technology of the time. But I'm sure there's still some South Aussies that feel ripped off, and hell, they even made a local beer out about it.
Stand draft, sticking back the land. Oh yeah, taking back the land. South Australia. It's the worst land traffic.
Alright, so we've just stopped at Hensley's Trig, which is just like right along our border track. It's a good spot to have a look out. Pretty elevated compared to everything else, so definitely a good spot for a view. The track so far has been bumpy like that, but very firm. Like I've been doing the whole thing in 2-wheel drive, and it's like haven't even come close to getting remotely stuck or anything. So yeah, it's been pretty easy going. Yeah, it's bumpy, but it's straight. Yeah, it's a good drive. So we'll keep on trucking.
Now, so far on border track, it hadn't really been that hard. There was a few sand dunes to go up, but the sand was fairly firm. A few little flexy bits, but really pretty easy track so far.
So as me and Liam have been traveling throughout Big Desert, you would have seen a lot of this. Now, this is mallee and it's very prominent in this whole area. Essentially, it's very different to the eucalypt that is grown around our area, you know, the high country in Melbourne. You know, a normal tree usually has a big trunk and then it sprouts off the trunk. Where with a mallee, it all sort of grows underground. You have this big root system, and then from there, it all sprouts up in all different areas. Now, they say that's due because this place doesn't get a lot of rainfall. They also say that's because that's its natural sort of retardant against fire. So obviously if a fire comes through, you'll be left with something maybe like this, but the plant can still recover. Another reason why Big Desert is, you know, so untouched how it is because it was so hard to cultivate back in the day. Farmers and stuff were looking for inventions of ways they can remove mallee because it was just so hard and prolific to get rid of. As you see, this is an old mallee tree here that's been, you know, left, and imagine trying to cultivate or plow or seed this. It just made it really hard, and a lot of it just never got cleared. So now when you hear the term mallee country, you know what they're talking about.
One thing though with border track is just so up and down, so bumpy, so yeah, it'll definitely give you suspension a workout. And more track. Every hill you go over, you see more and more, and you can kind of see how the dune system would have ran, you know, corresponding to the track left and right as we go over each one, over and over. It's like how those sand dunes, you know, in Simpson Desert run, I think, northeast. Well, these sand dunes all seem to be running east-west, and we just go over and over and over each one, and it's really cool.
Probably one of the bigger challenges on border track are the sand dunes. In fact, this track's actually closed in the summertime as the sand gets so soft, people can end up stranded. And as it's a high fire danger area with next to no emergency access, it is closed from the 31st of October to the 1st of April each year. Further along Border Track, we found a bit of a sand playground, and for those who live in other states other than Victoria, driving on sand is a pretty common thing. But for us, it's something completely different, and this was in fact Liam's first ever time driving on proper sand.
She's leaking. You?
Oh, it's come off the bead. Oh no.
Luckily, all it took was a slight pump up with the air compressor, and we were good to go.
Absolutely nothing around us. Some shrubs, some mallee, some dunes, and these freaking whoops. This is better, we're actually side by side.
The one thing that does get you on Border Track is the whoops. They are absolutely relentless. But if you got some half decent suspension, they're manageable, and it is worth doing this track. Like, the landscapes are just something that you'll never see anywhere else. They are really, really special, and I think the track does live up to its legendary status.
Alright, so we've just pulled up at the top of like a dune along Border Track. We're getting closer to the end. We found this wrecked Rodeo at the top of the dune. It's still got an engine and everything, which is pretty funny. But yeah, it's like, this is just like a bit of a playpen, it looks like. There's just like all different lines and things to take. But it's been a long drive so far. I think Patrick will agree. It's pretty bumpy. It actually wears you out a fair bit, all the bumps and whoops. Like, it would be good just to get back on some flat ground. But yeah, pretty good views from up here. You can see all the way back to where we've come from. Like, you can see literally, as far as your eye can see, you can see Border Track until it goes over this ridge. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Then now we're heading into, as you can see, all the farmland starting. So we're getting pretty close then to civilization, I guess. Because when you're out there, it feels like you're literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, it feels just like there's nothing. Like, there's an old rusted out fence on your left hand side. Yeah. That's about it. So yeah, we're getting back to reality now.
And reality came quick. Talangi style bog holes with mud up to our windows. We did our best to try avoid as much of this as possible, but it was pretty much unavoidable. I reckon it took us close to 2 hours to travel this 20 kilometers of rutted out muddy section, and it was such a pain, we did not want to be there anymore.
Oh, I'm over this.
However, luckily, we found something to cheer us up.
Oh, look at all the melons, Patrick, to the left.
Whoa, what the hell?
Look at them all. They're like all those real weird rock melon things.
But eventually, we made it out.
Oh, we've made it. Oh, thank God. I got a few sticks crammed up against here. Oh, thank God.
That was tedious.
That was, as soon as it stopped being like, yeah.
All right, guys, and that's the end of Border Track, and that concludes our big desert trip. We really hope you enjoyed the few days with us out on the tracks. It's an awesome place. If you can, get out to Big Desert, visit it, because it's got good four-wheel driving and good camping, and there's hardly anyone out there, so you have the place to yourselves. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, get subscribed, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.